The hiss came first sharp and cutting through the summer air, and then my wife's scream ripped through me like a knife. I spun around just in time to see our HOA president Karen standing at the bottom of our ramp arm, outstretched pepper spray in hand, blasting my disabled wife in the face like she was some kind of criminal. Laura's wheelchair jerked back as she clawed at the air, choking her skin, already burning red. Neighbors froze on their lawns, stunned, while Karen sneered and shouted about community safety. What she didn't know, what no one there knew, was that the woman she had just attacked wasn't some helpless victim. My wife is a judge, a fearsome one, and that little can of pepper spray was about to blow her entire kingdom apart. But let me back up because you need to understand how we even got to that moment. It started on moving day, which was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. We had just left a cramped city apartment that felt about as wheelchair-friendly as a mountain cliff. Laura was grinning like a kid at Christmas when the moving truck pulled up. She finally had a home where she could breathe, where she could move without hitting a wall every 3 feet. I was dripping with sweat unloading boxes when I heard the click of heels on our driveway. At first I thought, hey, maybe a neighbor bringing us cookies doing that old-fashioned welcome routine. Wrong. Instead, I got Karen. She looked like she walked straight out of a political drama, red blazer helmet, hair clipboard clutched like the Constitution. She introduced herself as the president of the Pinterest Meadows HOA, smiling with her teeth but not with her eyes. I introduced myself and Laura offered a handshake, but she wasn't interested in me. Her gaze went straight to the accessibility ramp we had installed that morning. "Is this permanent?" she asked, tapping her pen. Laura, calm as always, said, "Yes, that's my ramp. It's permanent." Karen's smile didn't move. "Well, technically, exterior modifications require approval. Wheelchair or not, we have standards to maintain. We wouldn't want the neighborhood to look industrial." Industrial. That's what she called the ramp that I had spent hours researching, a clean aluminum design with non-slip rails. I laughed because if I didn't, I'd lose it. "It's a ramp, Karen, not a nuclear power plant." She ignored me and scribbled something down. Then she started rattling off rules: grass no longer than 3 inches, trash cans hidden, no overnight street parking, vaccination records for pets. I swear if she could have asked for my dental records, she would have. As she strutted off, Laura whispered, "She's dangerous. I can smell it." I thought Laura was exaggerating, but she wasn't. 2 days later, the first violation letter showed up in our mailbox: unauthorized structure, wheelchair ramp. A few days after that, another excessive medical equipment on display, which was literally Laura's wheelchair and oxygen tank. I held the letter and said, "What does she expect me to do? Stash your chair in the garage and carry you around like a sack of potatoes?" Laura smirked but said, "She's fishing James. She wants to see how much we'll take before we push back." Karen wasn't just writing letters, she was stalking us. I'd catch her crouched by our property line phone, out snapping photos of the ramp, the van, even Laura sitting outside. One night I found our mailbox plastered with bright orange violation tags, 5 of them. Trash cans visible, improper parking, unapproved structure, unsightly equipment. Laura held one up like a trophy. She actually fined us for parking too close to our own garage. I paced the living room, ready to call the cops. But Laura, calm as ever, said, "Not yet. Let her keep digging her own grave." That's when I started to crack. I couldn't take the whispers from neighbors at the grocery store. I couldn't take Karen clicking her heels down the street like a drill sergeant. I started wondering if maybe we had made a mistake moving here. Maybe we didn't belong. I actually asked myself, was Karen right? Were we ruining the harmony of this perfect little neighborhood just by existing? For one bitter moment, I wanted to sell the house, pack up, leave. I hated myself for thinking it, but I did. Then Laura stopped me cold. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "James, bullies thrive when people cower. I don't cower. And neither do you." That was the spark I needed. If she could sit there in that chair and stare Karen down with calm fire, then I damn sure wasn't going to fold. But Karen wasn't done. She escalated. One Saturday afternoon, she marched up with her sunglasses and clipboard, shouting about property values, about our ramp dragging the neighborhood down. Laura tilted her head, almost amused, and said, "You mean existing? Because that's all I'm doing?" "Existing." And then Karen snapped. She dug through her bag, pulled out that pepper spray, flicked the cap open, and hissed a burning orange cloud straight into my wife's face. Laura screamed, blinded, coughing, her chair jerking back as I sprinted forward, yelling her name. Neighbors gasped, kids clung to their parents, everyone saw it. Karen pepper-sprayed a disabled woman in broad daylight, and she kept going, ranting about protecting the community. I shoved her arm down, grabbed Laura's chair before it tipped, and dragged her to the hose to flush her eyes. My hands were shaking with rage. "You just assaulted my wife in front of witnesses," I shouted, and Karen puffed her chest out and said I was within my rights. That night in the hospital I was ready to explode. I wanted to call the cops, sue her, burn the HOA to the ground. But Laura, even with swollen eyes and raspy breath, just smiled faintly and said, "James, she handed me exactly what I needed." I frowned, not understanding. Then she said it, "I'm not just your wife. I'm a judge." And Karen just committed crimes against the law itself. I was stunned. 15 years on the bench, the gavel with teeth they called her. She had kept it quiet to live a normal life. But now she was ready to strike. And she had a plan, not rage, not chaos, but patience and precision. She was going to let Karen bury herself, then slam the gavel down. 2 weeks later, Karen summoned an emergency HOA meeting calling for our removal from the neighborhood. She strutted into that clubhouse like a queen, waving her papers, ranting about dangerous non-compliance. I sat in the second row, fists clenched, but Laura just sat still, calm as ever. When Karen finally finished her tirade, Laura rolled forward, stood up straighter, and said, "My name is Judge Laura Taylor." Gasps rippled through the room. Phones came out. Neighbors whispered, and Karen's smirk faltered. Laura's voice was steel. "When you pepper-sprayed me, you committed assault. When you fined me for medical equipment, you violated the ADA. When you spread lies about me lowering property values because of my disability, you engaged in harassment and discrimination. This isn't an HOA matter. This is a criminal matter." The room erupted. Some neighbors clapped, others gasped. Karen stammered, "This is out of order." Laura stepped closer and said, "Order is my profession, Karen. You don't dictate it to me, I dictate it to you." The crowd applauded. The queen of the cul-de-sac suddenly looked very small, and within weeks she was in court, not presiding, not dictating bylaws, but sitting at the defendant's table. The jury saw the videos, the photos, the absurd violation notices. They heard Laura's testimony calm and razor-sharp. They watched Karen stumble shrill and pathetic, claiming she feared for her safety. And they delivered the verdict guilty on all counts. Assault, harassment, discrimination. The judge's gavel slammed, and with it Karen's empire collapsed. She lost her presidency, her reputation, her control. Neighbors who once feared her avoided her like the plague. Her pristine lawn turned patchy. Her house became the real eyesore. The HOA board scrambled to apologize, promising reforms, but it was too late. The tyrant had fallen. And that's where I'll stop, because the moment Karen's head dropped under that guilty verdict, everything changed. The mighty HOA president was nothing more than a disgraced bully with a criminal record, and justice had spoken. Bullies thrive in silence, but the second someone stands up, they collapse under their own weight.